Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. The new year is the perfect time to reset, refocus, and create a real estate game plan. If you've ever been thinking about buying a house, selling a house, upgrading, downsizing, or preparing in any kind of way for home ownership, this is definitely the episode for you. We're going to walk you through both buyers and sellers on some realistic, actionable steps and goals that you can set so that you can avoid mistakes, so that you can align your timeline, your finances, and your expectations so that you're prepared without the pressure to make sure that the right opportunity comes for you when it's time to buy a house. Welcome to the first episode in 2026 of Teach Me Tuesday. You have LaShawn and Gavin Abraham here. We're missing Mr. Barry. Our condolences are with you. He had another engagement he had to get to. So we're just going to go ahead and start the year off with giving you guys this material. And then the trio will be back together next week. So Gavin, so hopping right in it, our topic today is all about buying and selling a home. Buying and selling property, but if you want to buy and sell property, let me get tongue twisted. If you want to buy and sell property as a goal in 2026, then what's the realistic way to do it, right? Because buying or selling a home without a clear goal is like driving without a GPS. You're moving, but you may not be necessarily going in the right direction. So we don't want that to happen at all. And so the new year is the perfect time to make sure that that doesn't happen. So Gavin, how should a person start? If this is something that's on someone's mind, it's on their New Year's resolutions to do, how should they actually start? What do you think?
All right. Well, I mean, I think any important decision when you're making it is understanding your reason why you're doing it. So start
Yeah.
with the why. What's the why behind why you're wanting to sell or why you're wanting to buy or become a homeowner this year? So understanding your motivation drives every decision. Are you buying for stability or are you buying for like maybe more space? What about maybe you're making an investment? Um, and then for our sellers, like, are you looking to relocate, possibly, downsize or just tap into the equity that you built in that home to either, pay off some things or consolidate some debt, whatever it may be. But when your why is clear, your goals become easier and smarter and easier to execute. So understanding your why, I would say, is probably step one. Because once you have a good grasp of that, it's easier to, like you say, stay in alignment with what the goal that you're trying to achieve, and you can put together a plan that gets you to that goal, and it keeps you motivated the entire time. Like, man, this is why I'm doing this. You have a full understanding, and you don't kind of stray away from the objective because you have that reason why always forefront to help you get to that goal. So I would say that's step one.
I like that. And I'm so glad that you hit on that, understanding and starting with the why. Why is it that you, like you said, why is it that you want to purchase a home? Why is it that you may want to sell your home? Why is it, right? Because as some of you may or may not know, buying a house it's not necessarily an easy process. I wouldn't say it's difficult, but buying a home is one of those things where it's not taught in school. Yes,
Mhm.
you can Google. Now you can ask Chat GPT because it's not about Googling. It's asking, some form of AI, what should I do or how should I go about purchasing a home? And so it may give you, some generic steps, but when you're in that process, just depending on your financial background, whether you have to work on credit, whether you have to save money, whether you're searching for the right property, whatever it may be, sometimes it can become stressful. Sometimes it may become overwhelming. Sometimes it may become just a lot because you got to get all your documents, you got to get organized, you got to do all of these things. And sometimes you may be like, I'm gonna do this, like forget this, I'm
I
done.
agree.
But if you know
Yeah.
your why, right, which is that motivating piece, the why behind why am I doing this? Who is this for? How will this better my life? Then it will kind of almost like an anchor. It kind of centers you, holds you in place to keep on track to accomplish what you're trying to do. So good, good, good. All right, so let's come in at number two. We started off with the why. Then what's next? Would you say, guys?
Oh, well, I mean, I was going to turn that one over to you, let you
Okay.
kind of explain, um, define kind of the timeline because that's important. You have your why, But behind your why is like, well, when am I looking to do something, or how long is it going to take me to do something? So
Mm.
number two, defining your timeline. And it's not just as simple as saying just well, this year I want home ownership to become a goal in 2026. That's great, but let's narrow that down. Let's get it more focused. So, LaShawn, take it away.
Yeah, so I think that's a good segue because you just like you said, you don't want to be too broad and too vague and just say I want to be a homeowner in 2026 because right now we got whatever what 300 and actually this year is a leap year. So there's 366 days in the year, right? And so that can be when at any point in time. No, and so now you're just kind of floating around, not necessarily as focused and as disciplined. You're not. There's no sense of urgency when that timeline is not as defined. So I think people should put together SMART goals, something that you can measure, something that is actionable, something that you can actually say, okay, based on what I have going on this year, based on where I am, based on where my credit is, based on how much money I may have or not have, based on my job, based on my kids, my school, whatever it may be, I realistically want to be in a house by this date, or I realistically want to sell my home by this date because of these reasons. And I think that makes it easier to be able to clearly communicate so that way you're not rushing into decisions, you're not stressing yourself out. And one, you're not giving up and you're not quitting because it can become too much, right? So as we continue to go down our little checklist here of our topic, for 2026, all about how to set realistic real estate goals in the new year. If being a homeowner is on your New Year's resolution of what you want to accomplish. All right. So, do you want me to go to number three, Gav, or do you
Yeah,
want to?
yeah. I mean, I'll jump there. So, yeah, we're talking about, so one, we talked about your why. Two, we talked about knowing your timeline, not making
Mhm.
it too vague, but having a definitive timeline of when you want to accomplish that goal.
Yeah.
And then next step, let's talk about getting financially aligned. And you want to do that
Mhm.
early on in the process. You want to know as a buyer, you want to understand your budget. You want to understand what your credit looks like and what loan options you have before even going out to try and shop for a new, to purchase a new or pre-existing home. And then for sellers, it means knowing what kind of equity you have in that home, and knowing what your net proceeds is going to be from the sale of your home. What does that look like? What are you going to get back? And then how your sale impacts your next purchase, because
Mhm.
in most cases, for someone who's selling, if you're selling your primary home, you're going to move somewhere. So whether that's if you already have something lined up, or you're selling to purchase a new home, you need to understand how that's going to affect your next purchase, whether that's going to give you funds to buy your dream house or to put additional money down, to where it keep that payment low, as low as you want it, because you're now using that equity that you built from the previous home, to make your dreams and get your payment where you want it to be on the new one. And then early planning kind of just gives you a lot of leverage and confidence in going through the process. When you go through something and you're just not aware of your financials, like you're just kind of going out there on a whim, like you want something, but you haven't really thought about, man, how can I afford it, or how can I or is this realistic? There's a lot of people, you have what we like to call, you have champagne taste, but you got a beer
Mhm.
budget. Shout
Mhm.
out to my boy Wilmot. That's one of his favorite things. Um,
Mhm.
and when you have a champagne taste, things are, the glamour and glitz are gonna look good to you. But are you able to afford that? And not only are you able to afford it, do you want to pay that much for it? When another option could be you paying something lower, or buying something at a more reduced cost, and still being, feeling financially okay with that decision. So a lot of it goes into, like I said, getting financially aligned early in the process, so that you don't go out there like we see on House Hunters and things of that sort, where they take you to see the house that has everything, but
Mhm.
they show you that price of what that costs, and then they bring you back down to earth and say, well, that's what that costs, but this is what you can afford. So let's know what we can afford and what we can budget for first, and then go look at what's in our means to purchase, and act on that, as opposed to just going out there and all willy nilly and whatnot. So
I love that. You said that so perfectly. And I don't think I've ever really phrased it or framed it that way, Gavin, where we say get financially aligned early. I think I
mhm.
actually like how that sounds because it's so true, right? I know a famous person, I can't tell you who the famous person is, but I know you I've heard this before. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Because
Mm,
that's typically what happens. If you don't really in the home ownership, the real estate market. Don't get me wrong, some people just maybe have a knack for just winging things and it kind of works out for them. But the
right.
average person typically needs to have some type of plan in place. Yes, he is notorious for Mr. Wing It, but he somehow get it done. I mean, I don't know if it's
Get
a
it
Virgo
done.
thing or just a Gavin thing. I don't know. But I'll tell you that typically having some type of plan in place is going to be super important. And the finances part of it is probably the most critical. I mean, finding the house, I think that's the fun part and maybe a little stressful or overwhelming if you're looking at, tens or 20 of homes or something like that. But outside of that, when you're thinking about your budget, something, especially if you're not the average person that creates a budget, look at your finances in a way where you're really calculating how much you have going in and how much you have going out and what you have left over and what's really affordable to you. When you're looking at your credit, once again, this stuff ain't really taught in school. So sometimes you may not even know, what credit score do I need or where do my credit need to be and all of those questions, right? And then knowing what loan options are out there. As we're at the beginning of the year, a lot of agencies are re-rolling their fiscal year. So there's down payment assistance, there's loans for veterans, there's loans for rural housings, there's loans for nurses and there's loans for all sorts of things. But how do you know which loan is right for you? Right? If you're a buyer, same thing on the other end, as Gavin said with the sellers. So being financially aligned is going to be very important. But however, I don't want people to think that, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do that. That's where we come in, right? Gavin and I, that's our job. We are mortgage lenders. Our job is to play matchmaker. Our job is to figure out, where you are, what you need, and find a program that can help you. So, all right, before we run out of time, I feel like these go by so
Yeah.
quickly. Let's jump into number 4, right? Number 4. I think that's a really, really good one, separating your wants from your needs.
Mhm.
How do you really set realistic expectations? I think, Gavin, we're not going to talk too much about this because I feel like you answered this already perfectly when you said, the champagne taste on a beer budget, right? Being realistic about your expectations on, cosmetic things in a home, maybe the condition, maybe even the price, the location, things like that. Really kind of creating a little checklist on, what is the things that I truly want in a home versus the things I truly need. So, Gavin, can you give us a couple examples of what would you say is a want versus a need for somebody that's, maybe looking to purchase a home?
Yeah, I mean, you may want a man
A
cave,
man cave.
right? Right.
I was gonna say
I've been wanting a man cave in every house that I built. For some
you
reason,
had one.
somehow,
You had one. You had
well,
one.
that was the very first one. That don't count.
Then you had children. So hey,
Yeah.
can't get
So
everything
I mean,
on.
you may want a man cave, but do you need it? Not necessarily. I don't necessarily need it. Um, but but a need versus a want is, man, I have, I have 5 kids.
Mhm.
You don't just need a 2-bedroom house. You're probably going to need a 3 to 4 to 5 bedroom house, depending on, you know, how the living arrangements. So those are, that's just a quick example of a need versus a want. So you just got to prioritize your non-negotiables. You may want to live in you may want your kids to go to a certain school or be in a certain school district. That's a non-negotiable. You want to buy in that area. So that's a need as opposed to a want. And then, you may want fresh paint, I mean, a house to look brand new. But that's a want. That's not necessarily me. Do you need fresh paint? Because can that be something that you can do when you move into the home? Can you paint the house
Right.
yourself? So you got to kind of just balance out those things. So just separating the wants from the needs, so that when you um, go into looking for homes and whatnot, or you're doing your due diligence, looking online, you can say, okay, this checks all the boxes of the things that I need, as opposed to this one, it has everything that I want, but it's missing this need. It's not meeting this need. And you can make a very informed decision and cancel out things and not waste a lot of your time. So yeah, so I like that. So let's jump right into the last one. We're trucking right along. I think this is one of the most important steps of the process. Building the right team, baby.
There you
You
go.
know, you can go do everything on your own. You can conceptualize everything in your mind and think that YouTube University and Chat
Chat
GPT
GPT.
and AI is going to teach you everything you need to know. Well, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I'm not going to say you're wrong. My experience in this profession is that you need a professional. And so, who should be involved in your real estate goals? LaShawn, give the people. I mean, who should they contact? Who should they be looking to?
Absolutely. But first of all, you contact Team Abraham for
Amen.
all your lending needs,
All
right?
of
Lending and mortgage needs, you contact Gavin and LaShawn. And then secondly, or you can say equally as first place, definitely a realtor. Definitely contact, our partner in crime, Mr. Wilmot Berry, to help you with all your real estate needs as well.
them.
You need an insurance agent, you need a tax professional, maybe a financial advisor, and a real estate attorney. These are some really good people to have on your team because all of us play a critical role in getting you from just looking at a home to getting those keys in your hand. So that's our time today, guys. We so appreciate you guys tuning in to Teach Me Tuesday, our first new episode here in 2026. And so, like always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to DM any of us on any social media platform, and we look forward to what's to come in 2026. Have a great, great, great rest of your day. Bye.
Happy New Year's.